Okay. We're ready to rock and roll.
Pripara pam pum!
Hello everyone! Hello all the little people in my phone. I hope you are doing well today. Today we are going to be talking about my Laala cosplay and the build that I did for her. So this is going to be the first part of the video, and we'll be going over the bodice and the skirts, so sort of like the base of this outfit. And then in the next video, in the second part, we'll be going over the accessories, the wig, the shoes, the socks, all those extra little details that add on to the main part. So who is Laala? Laala is an elementary school girl. She is in 6th grade and she goes to Paprika Academy. And her dream and her goal is to become an idol in Pripara, which is sort of this magical idol world where girls go and they sing and dance and wear costumes and all this amazing, beautiful, fantastical stuff. And so Laala's dream is to go there. She makes some friends along the way. She helps out at her family's restaurant. She has a younger sister named Nan, and she is part of the Pripara trio Solami Smile. She is my favorite character. I love her so much. She brings me so much joy. She's really just a light, and she's freaking hilarious. Pripara is one of those shows where you don't really think about it too much as a comedy. A lot of people classify it, again, idol anime or as a slice of life. But to me, Pripara is so funny, and the storylines that they carry, it's like you're in on an inside joke from episode 1 all the way to episode 140. It's amazing. I love it. It's so funny, and Laala is a huge part of this comedy and why I love this show so much. Her facial expressions, her reactions to things are so funny, and her friendship and care for other girls and other people in Pripara is so genuine that it warms my heart, and I really love her for that. So that's a huge reason as to why I decided to cosplay her. I also did this cosplay as a duo with my cosplay partner Pixie, who made Falulu, and so together we were Laala and Falulu. And the outfit that I cosplayed for Laala is called it's called Laala Super Sialoom Cord, I think. Or it's either Super Sialoom Laala Cord. I'll put the title in here so then we can all be sure we're on the same page. And this outfit is sort of a, I guess, next level of her regular everyday Pripara outfit. So it's very similar in shape and in colors and patterns to her regular everyday Pripara outfit, except it's taken up a notch. There's more details, there's small embellishments, it's larger, it's poofier, it's so much more idol-y than her regular outfit. So I wanted to cosplay that because it still sort of captured the essence of who Laala is and that iconic image of what she looks like. You know, if you know Laala, it's like you picture her, she has her purple twin tails, and then she has her white, yellow, pink dress, and it's got music notes on it. And the stripes too, and I feel like the Super Sialoom Cord is really just the next level of her image and her brand and who she is, and so I really wanted to do that one. It's also kind of a challenge. I thought this one would be more complex or more complicated than her everyday regular outfit, and I like to do masquerade competitions in cosplay, and I am now at the master's level, so I thought her Sialoom Cord was a great master level cosplay with the amount of details and the amount of different techniques I would have to use to make this cosplay. Okay, so now we know a little bit about Laala and a little bit about Pripara and why I chose to do this cosplay. We're going to talk now about the process of making this. And this all starts with planning and fabric shopping. The very first part of any cosplay planning, very similar to my Prism videos, and how I approach all of my cosplays is gathering references. I gather a lot of images from the anime itself, screenshots from the show, official merchandise, and I try to get all of the angles of the cosplay, so front, side, and back. So then I started sketching. And for me, this is really the best way to visualize and break down all of the parts of a cosplay. Looking at the full cosplay on its own can be super intimidating, and so I like to break it down into different parts. So breaking it down to the top, so we're just looking at the top, looking at what details go into the top, what shape is the top, what sort of fabric might I need for the top, and then moving on to the chest bow, for example. So what sort of fabric do I need for the chest bow? What shapes is the chest bow? Do I need to use any special techniques? Things like that. And so I do that all through sketching. You can kind of see my plan for the top, and I've got sort of notes on what fabrics I plan on using and sort of how I will choose to approach that. I have here as well the skirt and the butt bow. This has a pretty bit of math because of the ruffles and calculating how much fabric I would need. So that was another huge reason why sketching this out and planning was so important, because I knew I was going to need a lot of fabric, and I didn't want to have to over order or overbuy anything that I didn't need. So making sure I had the proper measurements and so I could get the right amount of fabric was really important. As for fabric shopping, I did a lot at my local Fabric Fill, store that just has your regular everyday fabrics. I got my cotton twill there, some of my satins there, my polyester lining, a lot of those basic fabrics. And for the fancier or sort of specialty type of fabrics, I actually ordered them online. And I'm someone who doesn't really like to order fabric online for a variety of reasons. One, it's really hard to tell color and texture and weight of a fabric when ordering online. And so it's always a risk and a gamble what you're going to get. And so I ordered a bunch of samples to start from Fabric Wholesale Direct. And they've got like everything. Any type of fabric that you might need in any color, they probably have it. And I went through all of their satins. I was specifically looking for satins because Fabric Fill didn't have what I was looking for. And I got some samples and I hated them. So that was awesome. I'm glad I got samples instead of straight up ordering the fabric, because I didn't end up liking the texture. I didn't like the shine on the fabric and how it looked. I thought it looked kind of costumey and cheap compared to the online pictures. And so I actually ended up ordering a second sample of fabric from them, choosing now a different type of satin. So I ended up buying the yellow satin from Fabric Wholesale Direct, and most of the other fabrics I already had or I got from Fabric Fill. Another really cool thing about this cosplay and the fabric in it is the custom printed fabric that I made. So there was no fabric anywhere close to the stripes on her skirt in the store or online, and so what I ended up doing was creating a pattern of these stripes. I actually made it in Canva because I'm not a very good Photoshop person or Illustrator person, so I made it in Canva. I saved that file and then uploaded it to Spoonflower, where I placed an order for some custom printed satin. And I placed my order with Pixie so we could save on shipping a little bit. I was really pleased with my order from Spoonflower. Sometimes shipping to Canada can take quite some time, but the shipping was on time for what the estimate was, and I was really pleased with what I received. And of course, you can't just make a cosplay out of fabric, so I also got some notions. I got some horsehair braid, some elastic, thread, beads, vinyl heat transfer, interfacing, heat and bond, and oh yes, dance tights as well. That was another thing that I bought, were a pair of dance tights so that I could attach my socks to them. So that was sort of everything in the categories of fabric, notions, and planning. Okay, amazing. So we are finally moving on to the undergarments of this cosplay. And for this cosplay, it was really important that I had the correct shape. And so in order to do this, I have a hoop skirt and a petticoat. And both of these I made them last year for my Prism cosplay and reused them for this cosplay. There's no sense in making a new hoop skirt or a new petticoat when the skirt shape was very similar. And so if you're interested in that process and how I made the hoop skirt and how I made the petticoat, you can take a look at my Prism video in part 1. I'll put a little card up there so you can check it out, and I explain a little bit more about how I made the hoop skirt and the process, the materials involved, and how it came together all in the end, so I won't go over it here in this video. So now we are going to talk about the base construction. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the bodice and how I sort of started this entire cosplay. First thing I needed to do was make a pattern. I didn't have a pattern already existing in the shape of Laala's dress, and so I started draping on my mannequin the sort of shapes and what I wanted this bodice to look like. There's a lot of adjusting, a lot of marking out the darts, and I probably made 3 different mock-ups for the top before I was finally happy and satisfied with the final version. I also draped the shoulder straps / collar thing. The outfit has some weird like triangle strap things happening in the front, and I decided to drape those as well, mostly because the pattern really confused me and I wasn't really sure how to approach it. And by draping, at least I could sort of fit it onto my body and make it fit me and make it work for how I wanted to move and my comfort levels as well. I also draped a Peter Pan collar for this sort of top area, which went over top of the straps and the main bodice piece. And I drafted a peplum skirt for this top as well. So something that I did was split this cosplay into a top and a skirt, and the first layer of what you think is the skirt or what you think is the dress is actually attached to the top. And so this is a double circle skirt with a horsehair hem, and it is just attached to the bodice. And as for cutting out the actual fabric, the bodice was made out of cotton twill with a polyester lining. The shoulder straps were also the white part was made out of the same cotton twill with the gold lame trim, and the triangle strap collar thing was cut out of a light pink satin, and I overlaid a sparkly star printed organza over top of it to add just a little bit of texture and a little bit of shine. And I actually think it turned out really pretty and really nice. I like the way that it looks. I like the little bit of extra texture it adds to the cosplay. And to do that, I just cut out the pieces and basted them together before adding them as the main collar pieces. On the bodice as well, Laala has these pinstripes sort of down the front, and I made those out of vinyl or heat transfer vinyl. I don't own a Cricut, so I actually cut all of the vinyl on this cosplay by hand by laying it out, taping it down, measuring it, and then cutting it either with scissors or with a rotary cutter. And so I just ironed those on the front of the bodice and peeled away the sort of plastic that goes over top of the glitter, and it turned out really great. I was really happy with how it looked, and that sort of set the stage for using heat transfer vinyl on other parts of the cosplay as well, which included the sleeves. So the sleeves, or the sort of I don't know what to call them. I guess they're cap sleeves on the bodice. Those are made out of cotton twill, and they're sort of a pattern of a crescent shape, and I gathered them, so I made it twice the length of what it needed to be for my shoulder and gathered them. And because it was made out of cotton twill, it actually had enough structure on its own to stand up without flopping over. And I made a bias out of gold lame and attached that to the outside of the gathered shoulder cap. I then serged these straps and stitched them to the main part of the bodice. I top stitched them down and then added the hot pink sequin detail on the straps. She has hot pink sequin that runs this way and then also towards the center of the neck along the straps, and I sewed those on, top stitched them on, and I think it turned out really great. Another part of the top was the pink ruffle at the very top of the bodice where my chest is. And this pink ruffle, very simple, was a rectangle that was double the length of my circumference of sort of my upper chest here. I gathered it, double rolled hemmed it, and then attached it to the bodice and serged it. And of course everything in the top was lined on the inside, so all my seams were finished, they were serged, and everything was neatly tied together. As for the back of the bodice, I ended up using a normal zipper. Because the bodice, there was a lot going on. There's a lot attached to the bodice. There's a chest bow, there's like these sleeves, there's a collar, there's a skirt, there's a butt bow that gets attached to the bodice. I decided to use a regular zipper, mostly because an invisible zipper was pretty flimsy and I didn't like the way that it would sit on the bodice. So I used a regular zipper and then a hook and eye closure in the back of the bodice. And now we are going to talk about the skirt. So the skirt was going to be sitting on top of my previously made hoop skirt and petticoat. And so I knew the skirt was going to be pretty big with a pretty large circumference, needing a lot of fabric. So I cut a mock-up of the skirt at first just out of some extra fabric that I had, some extra satin, and used that to fit over the hoop skirt. It was really important that the skirt could fit over the hoop skirt without crushing it or without being too large either. And so it's not quite a full circle skirt. It's about 7/8 of a circle skirt, I would say. A little bit less than a full circle skirt in terms of circumference, and I split it up into 3 different panels. So I have a front panel and then 2 back panels of the skirt, and that sort of formed the base. That base was cut out of cotton twill, and it has a polyester lining as well. To the base, I sort of marked out the different layers and where I wanted them to sit and made sure that it looked okay, that they were proportionate, that there wasn't one layer that was longer or shorter than another. And then I started to sew the different layers. I started first with the bottom layer. It's white, and what I ended up doing was making a scalloped edge along this white ruffled trim. And I actually got this idea from when I went to the fabric store. I saw this eyelet lace and I was like, oh my gosh, it'd be really pretty to add eyelet lace to the bottom of this skirt. I think it would look really lovely. Except the eyelet lace was like $6 a meter and I would have needed like 3 or 4 meters of it, and I was like, absolutely not. I'm not spending more money on that. So what I ended up doing was taking the circumference measure of the skirt and doubling it. And I cut out rectangular strips of satin, and I did this stitch on them that's like a little scallop stitch. It's a setting on my machine, and so you set the machine to the scallop stitch and you turn the length of your stitch all the way down, or mostly all the way down, almost to 0, and so it sort of creates this satin stitch in a scalloped pattern. And this turned out so cute and so much better than I could have imagined. So as I was doing that, I then fray checked it all, and basically it stops your fabric from fraying. So I applied fray check, let it dry, and then I cut out all of the scallops. So I had this nice scalloped hem on this gathered fabric at the bottom of the skirt, and I think it turned out amazing. I'm really glad I took this extra step. It took a really long time. The video of me stitching the satin stitch scallops is actually sped up times 10. So it's really slow. It takes a long time, and I had to do probably 3 3.5 meters of this. And again, cutting it all out by hand took some time, but it was worth it in the end for this extra little bit of really amazing detail that I love a lot about this cosplay. And now we are moving on to cutting the rest of the skirt layers, which includes my 2 different custom printed satins and then that neon yellow satin as well. And so what I did first was make sure that all my fabrics were on the grain. So I love to do that when you rip the fabric and make sure it's on grain. It's always really satisfying for me to do that. And so I needed to make sure that was all set before I made any cuts to the fabrics themselves. What I did was cut out rectangles and then gathered them with my machine. And so when I gather them by machine, what I do is I turn the setting to the longest stitch and I run 2 parallel stitches along the top of the fabric that I want to gather, and then I pull the stitches so then it gathers all together. I find doing 2 makes the top of the gather more flat, which makes it easier to pin and easier to sew down. It's also helpful in case you're gathering a lot of fabric and your thread snaps, which has happened to me before. That way you have a backup thread and you don't need to rethread your entire gather again. For the hem of the yellow fabric, the yellow satin, I did a double rolled hem on there. And then for the hem of the striped fabric, they actually both have a gold trim. And so what I ended up doing was making a folded over gold trim, and I serged that just on its own at first and then attached it to the ruffled skirt pieces themselves. Oh yes, another thing to note is that when I was sewing with these layers, they're all satin, and so I made sure I was using an appropriate needle in my machine for this. I made sure to change my needle regularly for this project, and for these ones, for sewing with the satin, I needed to make sure I had a sharps needle. Okay, so now that we've got all the layers on there, I added a waistband out of cotton twill and medium weight interfacing to the top of the skirt. And I closed everything up in the back with an invisible zipper. So you can't see the zipper in the skirt, which is really great. I think it looked really good. It was really difficult lining up all the layers together to make sure that they matched in the back, but I was able to successfully do it. Close it up with an invisible zip and then a hook and eye in the waistband to finish off the skirt. We have made it. We talked about the bodice construction, the fabrics and the plaiting, and the skirt construction of this cosplay. And so that sort of concludes the first part of this video series, this 2-part series. The second part will be going into the details, so all of the bows, the socks, the wig, the shoes, the armbands, all those little extra details that we didn't get to talk about today. I hope that this was informative and gave you a little bit of insight into how I made this cosplay and how much work went into this. I think there's a lot of things that you don't necessarily see when you just look at the cosplay, but knowing all of the process and the work and the small things that went in behind all of this, I think is really cool to see, and I hope that you all thought it was really cool as well. So there will be a part 2 coming. There will also be, if it's not out already, a vlog of the weekend with this cosplay at the competition that I competed at and the dance that I did with Pixie. So that should be coming if it's not already out, and part 2 will be coming. If you like this video, please make sure to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. That really helps me. And if you'd like to see more of this content or behind the scenes of when I make these, you can follow me on social media. I post regularly on Instagram, which is at magicalbeancosplay, or you can find me on Twitter at magicalbeancos. If you have any questions about the process or any questions about things that I might be able to clarify, please let me know in the comments. I'm happy to provide as much information as I can about this in case you want to make your own Laala cosplay or you're doing a cosplay that's similar to this. So don't hesitate to ask, and I will see you all later. I hope you have a great day, great evening, great whatever time zone you're in. capiche. Kashkoma. Kashkoma. That's her catchphrase. That's what she says.